Good day, everybody. This is John Scarborough. Wanted to do a little talk today, a couple little tips I've been kind of discovering here at the sawmill. We're getting ready to do a little bit of work on these logs, and this has got quite a bit of knots in this log. And you know, a lot of times when you cut your boards out of your, you know, and you're cutting right through there, and you cut through knots and stuff, you're fine. You know, it comes out pretty good if you got a good sharp blade, but once you get cut, you know, once you get it stacked and it gets all the way dry, you pull it out, and a lot of times it's got warps in there. Even when you weighed it down and you did everything just like you should, it'll still end up with some warps in there. And you can tell this log right here, it's going to get, you know, it's got knots all in it, some fairly good sized knots. And if, you know, and I go all the way around there and it's got knots on it. So it's going to have knots in every board just about. There's going to be knots. And we're kind of thinking about using this as 2x4 material later on in the future. So if I cut this down into 2x, let me grab my tape here and I'll show you. If I bring this down into 2x's, you can see here at the 3.5 inch mark, which is what a 2x4 would do, that would go right through the edge of that knot. Well, that's not that bad there. It's only in the edge, but if I decided to do a 2x6, you know, you can see where that would end up being. And you would, you know, you can definitely see that you would end up with some 2x4s or 2x6s. Either way, you would end up with some knots right there on the edge. And when you get a knot like that on the very edge of your board, and it's a big, deep knot, many times it can cause that board to warp one way or the other. And, you know, and then a lot of times it can even cause a weak spot to break. But it definitely, the main thing is it can cause it to warp one way or the other, even when you got it weighed down good, even when you got a really good stack. So a lot of times what I'm finding that I am doing here on this, on these logs where they've got a lot of knots in them, I don't always know for sure what I want, whether I want 2x4s or 2x6s. And, you know, we may sell it, we may trade to somebody with it, or we may use it in our own house, when, you know, or whatever. You know, we might use it in our in different places around here. So whatever the case may be, I may need 2x6s, may need 2x4s. I don't know for sure. So what I've been doing is I've been just cutting the full board, and I'll get it down to a cant. And these are all the ones that came from before it was a cant. And then these over here, these are after I've turned it into a cant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it at the full width. I'm not sure what that is. Let me grab my tape measure again and measure it. So we've got about little under 13.5 inches there. So we know we'd get really good 2x12 out of it. So we can get any type of material we want out of this. This is a 9-foot board here. So the nice thing is I can strip this down at any point. So the only thing is, if you're going to do that, you know, you might want to get you a good saw, about like that. That's a really good worm drive saw. That right there would make really quick work of cutting these into 2x4s. Like, you turn that into a decent job all of a sudden. Like before, it's like, man, if I got to cut a whole bunch of 2x4s, that's gonna get slow, and it's you know, it could get a little bit hard. But if you got a good guide on there and you got a good strong saw like that, man, you can really go to town. I mean, even if with oak boards, even if you wanted to cut some 2x4s out of some oak, that would work really well. So anyway, that's something that I've started doing. I've even got some that are dry. They dried out real nice, and we're actually going to, we actually already turned them into 2x4s. We ripped them down and we turned them into 2x4s, and I may even have a video out on that. I don't remember if I put a video out on that or not, but anyway, so that works really good, guys. And it's also a good way, like, no matter what you want to do, whether you're not sure what size board you want, you know, once you cut that board down, you can't get it back. You know, you cannot get a 2x12 out of that ever again. But right now, I can get any kind of board I want out of that. And the thing is that I've noticed is those knots are no longer, they're not as unstable. The whole board is not as unstable once it's dry, and then you cut it, you know, you get it nice and straight. It's no longer as unstable. It'll hold together. Now, I mean, obviously, we all know if you get a knot right smack in the middle of a 2x4, no matter what you do, that board is never going to be just real strong. right there. You wouldn't use it for structural stuff. But anyway, guys, so I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. I'm not going to drag that on too long, but I think it's a great way to do it for sure. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.